today's edition of Marriage Nuggets. On today's edition, we'll be looking at conflict management. And we have a wonderful guest who is going to be doing justice to today's topic. In the house with me today is Dr. Mrs. Lawrence Adeyemi Deborah. She is a clinical psychologist and a social worker. You're welcome, ma.
Thank you very much. I'm glad to be here.
Thank you. What is the role of a social worker?
Social work is the aspect of the society where the social worker works together with agencies that are instituted by the government to manage the affairs of the inner core of the society, which starts from the family unit, which is the smallest unit of the society. The family makes up the population, makes up the society, and so the social worker deals directly with the family and deals with everything that comes out of the family, that comes out of behaviors associated with this unit.
Okay. Today's topic is conflict management.
Okay.
How does a social worker come in managing conflict in marriage?
Yes, the social worker, there are different aspects of social work, but the aspect that deals with the family is the social welfare. And the social welfare manages everything that comes out of the family. Issues like conflict management is basically one of the most important aspects of social work in social welfare.
Okay.
And so when we are talking about conflict management, we want to understand what is conflict in terms of how it concerns the family. There are so many aspects of conflict management. Conflict management in terms of industrial, in terms of population, but here we are talking about conflict management within the family setting. Yes. And so when we are talking of conflict management in family setting, we want to find out what exactly is conflict. And then what are the levels, what causes conflict within the family setting. Conflict is when two people do not agree on a certain thing, and out of disagreement, issues begin to emanate, which could become violent or non-violent. But the most important fact is that there is no agreement and there is no cohesion, and so there is misunderstanding.
Okay, so what are the causes of conflict in marriage?
A lot of things cause conflict in marriage. We have the issue of scarce resources, clash of interest, cultural ideologies, differences in cultural values. We also have interference of third party. When we say third party interference, it means before you look at conflict management, you want to identify the source of the conflict. It's like there is no smoke without fire. And before the fire starts, there must have been smoke. And so when we're looking at the source of the conflict, then you can talk about third-party interference. But when we now get to the level of saying third-party interference, it's okay. Yes, that is because it has gotten to the level where conflict resolution comes in. And conflict resolution must be with a third party. But when the third-party interference is the source of the conflict, then it becomes a problem. That is why it could be a cause of conflict.
Okay, let's look at how do we avoid conflict in marriage?
There are many ways of avoiding conflict in marriage. That's why I said, first of all, look at the source of conflict. As human beings, it is natural to fight for scarce resources. It is natural to enforce territoriality. Even among animals, they enforce territoriality. And so also in the family, there is the enforcement of territoriality, which is usually from the head, which is the male. And in the process of trying to enforce his territoriality, the wife might feel threatened. The wife might feel threatened, and there could be conflict as a result of territoriality in the family. Also, when we look at sources of conflict in the family, you also look at scarce resources. People, the same set of people competing for the same resources, and it's scarce. So conflict and human nature, you want to satisfy firstly your own psychological needs, your physiological needs according to the hierarchy in the Abraham Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And in the process of trying to satisfy your own immediate needs, you can come in conflict with the other party in the home because the other party too wants to satisfy his own needs. And so in the process, conflict will arise in the home. So when we begin to identify the sources of conflict in the home, then we would be able to manage it. It's just like stress. Everybody passes through one form of stress or the other. But when it becomes inimical, when it becomes destructive, then you want to manage it. So is conflict. There is productive conflict and there is a destructive conflict in the home. So when we are talking about conflict management, conflict resolution in the home, in the family, we'll first of all look at the source of the conflict, and then we will be able to identify its resolution.
Okay, is it possible to avoid conflict in marriage?
Well, it's not possible because we are human beings. And because we are human beings, definitely there will be conflict. It's only if it's one person. And even some people fight within themselves. Can have a person fighting himself because he's unable to resolve his own emotional needs. So he's beginning to fight himself within. So if somebody can fight himself, have conflict within himself psychologically, definitely if there is another person with him, then there is bound to be conflict between the both of them. So it's a natural phenomenon. It's something that can be avoided, but it can be controlled and it can be managed.
Okay, so what you do in terms when you have conflict, that's what matters most.
Exactly.
Now let's look at this. Husband and wife. My wife is angry. How do I manage that? Truly, I say that she's wrong, but she's not listening to me because she's angry. And I'm also furious. How do we handle a situation whereby both of us are angry?
Thank you for that question. It is natural to be angry because in the process of conflict, the emotions that come along with it is anger. There are different emotions that comes along with conflict. Different people exhibit different types of behavior when they are in the conflict mode. Some people could be angry, outbursts. Some people could throw tantrums. Some people could be violent. Some people just go mute. And then you now start the process of the conflict resolution. So, but you are talking about anger now. Yes. When two people are angry, the best thing to manage that situation is both parties should calm down. Once you know that you are angry and the other party knows is angry in the conflict, one person just has to calm down. At that point, the solution at that very immediate point, practically, is just to calm down. It's not even trying to address the issues because the issues might not be something that is immediately resolvable. But the first approach is to get out of the situation, to calm down, to get out of that angry mode. Like if phone is not is having issues and you put it on flight mode, yes, one can put himself or herself on a flight mode. That is that anger. Wait until it settles, and when it settles, then you can now table the issues that is causing the conflict in the family. Then you will now look at the ways of resolution. But if you don't get out of that angry mode, there is no way you can resolve the conflict. Every other thing that follows suit will eventually tend to more conflict. And then you begin to have different layers of conflict till it escalates into something that could be destructive.
Okay, you talked about productive conflict and destructive conflict.
Yes.
How do we know our conflict is moving towards destruction?
Yes. When conflict is productive, it's productive in the sense that you are able to sit down, identify the source of the conflict, prefer solution to it. And when you get a solution to it, the results of the solution will become a plus in that family. And so that conflict has become productive. It has yielded something productive, positive. But it becomes disruptive when there is no resolution and the more conflict is arising out of the immediate conflict. It now gets into different levels. There are some things we call mild, moderate, and severe. Conflict could be in a mild form, and from being mild, it goes to moderate conflict, and from being moderate, it goes to a severe form of conflict, which would have escalated and will be difficult to manage. So if it's mild, both parties can sit down and resolve it. Even if it's moderate, if both of them are willing, they would be able to manage it. But when it's severe, then the result could be chaotic, could be disruptive, and would tend to have very severe effects.
What do I need to do?
Okay.
If my partner is not even ready to, we have issue, we have identified the source of the problem, but
Yes.
my partner is not ready to shift ground so that we can have peace. What do I need to do in that kind of situation?
Yes, in conflict management, one of the basic things of resolution is dialogue. And dialogue does not happen once. It happens over and over and over again. There is also negotiation and bargaining, even in the family. It also involves dialogue. And in the process of dialogue, both parties must first of all identify a goal. What is the goal of this resolution? When you both identify your goal and you both agree that this is our goal, then it becomes easy. The process starts. Dialogue, shifting of grounds, bargaining, negotiation, peacefully, and then there is no way when you negotiate, you bargain, you have peaceful talks. It doesn't happen just immediately at the snap of a finger. It takes time. But when the goal, both of you have agreed on the goal of resolution of the matter, definitely where there is a will, there will be a way.
Okay, we have some couple, a partner that is ready to leave the marriage. You're just looking for that excuse. So everything that you do does not matter. You keep on taking offense in all your action. What do you need to do? And you are getting out of your patience.
Yes. In such a situation, there is no common goal. You know, we first of all talked about having a common goal to resolve conflict. But where the goal is not common, it's one-sided.
Yes.
The other party, it's now the other party would now take the initiative of looking inwards. When I say look inwards, look at the foundation of the home. Look at the foundation of the marriage, how it started. Look for ways, can this conflict be resolvable? If this person's mind is made up, what can I do? That is looking inwards. At that time, you have no control over the other party's emotions. You have no control over the other party's goals. What you know is you know yourself. You don't know what is in the mind of the other party. So it's just for you to look inwards and provide solutions for yourself. How to move forward.
How do we move forward?
There are many ways of moving forward in life. First of all, you value yourself. You love yourself. You value yourself. And when you love and value yourself, you work on yourself. You begin a process which is healing within. Healing and then moving on. You heal, you value yourself, you love yourself, and you do things to improve yourself. When you improve yourself, you find out that today you are looking like an unripe orange. But when you go under the cover or you go into the sun and the sun heats you up, then you become ripe. And when you become ripe, you become attractive to everybody. And everybody will be like, oh, this person has changed. In fact, the other party might now look back and say, oh, this person, I didn't know this person could turn out to be this way. And then the person might not be able to come back, but you have done a good job on yourself, and you will be happy with yourself at the end of the day.
Okay. Let me ask this.
Okay.
Some couple, they show their grief through avoiding sex.
Okay.
Is it a good thing?
It's you see, the family setting is such that the two become one. And so if one party is restricting sex and the other party is being denied, definitely even the person that is restricting is also denying himself. He thinks he's punishing the other party, but in other ways he's also denying himself because he is not happy. You want to punish somebody. If you are happy, would you want to punish somebody? It shows that there is an inner trouble in the party that is trying to punish the other person. So when you get to that level, both of them should still go back to the conflict resolution table.
Okay.
Because it's another form of conflict in the family. You know, there is no smoke without fire. So if there is an emotion, if there is a behavior, there is something going on within that person. And that is why you are seeing aggression, you are seeing revolt, you are seeing different types of conflict. And so what you should do is go back to the resolution table and say, oh, this person, you are not like this before. What is happening? Why are we saying this in you? You are not like this. And then if you are able to use the right approach, you will get to the source. Even you might not even need to get to the resolution table before you know, because you have lived with this person over a couple of years. So you know the reaction and counter reaction that, oh, if my husband is angry, he won't eat. If my wife is angry, she will deny me of sex. You both know the reaction and counter reaction. So to resolve should be a very, very easy thing if the conflict has not gotten to a severe level.
All right, thank you. You talk about food. That made me to remember that some people believe that if my wife cook and I'm angry, I will not eat her food. And some wife will say, oh, Oloma, let me draw the food and eat it and take and enjoy my own. Huh? What do we need to do as a wife if my husband refuses to eat my food?
If, as a woman, your wife is ignoring your food, it's a sign of conflict within. Just showing that the husband is not happy. And so a wife would try to find out what is causing that conflict. And in the process, the wife must be willing to resolve. The wife must be willing to bury her ego, even if the husband is wrong. Because she has the goal of trying to resolve conflict, then no party should find it too hard to say, I'm sorry. No party should find it too hard to change, turn the table. You see, one thing that human beings find difficult to do is change. And the only thing that is constant in life is change. But because human beings find it difficult to change, you say you can't teach an old leopard new tricks. Why? Why can't the old leopard learn new tricks? Because he can't change his ways. So because we find it difficult to change, that is why is also part of the reason for conflict. It's also a source of conflict in the home. The inability to change. That's how I've been doing my thing, and that is how I will do it, even though it's causing conflict issue in the home.
What's your own opinion about some men believe that they can never say sorry to their wife?
It's we have what we call verbal and non-verbal cues. And the wife should be able to identify the verbal and non-verbal cues. Saying sorry is not just saying it with the word of mouth, because it's easy to say sorry and still continue with the behavior. But sorry actually means change. I will change. That is what it's saying. I am sorry for every hurt I've caused you, and I will change. So if the person is not saying it verbally, but he's showing it in his body language, he's showing it in the things he's doing, then what else do you want? You can identify that, oh, this person is indirectly or directly saying, I'm sorry, and that should be accepted. Men have their ego because that is part of their makeup. And so they also have their ways of showing their emotions. Most men are trained not to cry. They are trained not to show sign of emotion. So because of that training by our cultural values, that the woman has to understand that, oh, the men are trained not to cry. They are trained not to show their emotional outburst publicly or in front of, so that they will not look weak. But it's okay to cry. It's okay to break down because you are also a human being and not a superman nor a robot. So the wife should be able to identify verbal and non-verbal cues in the setting of the family.
All right, on the final note,
Okay?
when do we need to involve third party in conflict management? And also, which kind of third party do we need as a professional now? We want you to advise couples out there. Which kind of third party do we need to involve when the conflicts get out of hand?
Yes, I like that question and thank you for it. You see, our cultural values in our society taught us to seek advice from the elders. That was how it used to be then, back in the old centuries. When there is conflict with the home, they will say, go and see the àgbàs in the family. Ẹ lọ rí àwọn àgbà nínú ilé. And then they were able to resolve conflicts in the family. In fact, when there was war in villages, it was the elders that would sit down and resolve the conflicts. And so it's these days we say, oh, that was then, that's old school. No, it's still viable and functioning, that old setting of conflict management. However, the society has also evolved. There has been, research, and we now have professionals. We have therapists. We have social workers that are trained and that are seasoned that you can reach out to when there is conflict in the family. Now, there are certain levels where you can reach out. When the wife begins to notice that this thing is escalating and there is no common goal of conflict resolution, then it is time to seek intervention.
All right, thank you very much for being on the show today.
Thank you very much.
We appreciate you.
Thank you
For being on the show.
Thank you
and
very
I believe
much.
our viewers out there have learned one thing or the other on the show. If you have done so, don't forget to subscribe to this channel and stay tuned for another interesting edition. Thank you.